Hi, friend. Welcome to Holly's Highlights, a podcast designed to encourage, inspire, and equip you to intentionally live your life full of purpose. I'm your host, Holly Kirby, motivational speaker, leadership cultivator, marketing strategist, and personal cheerleader. Let's check out today's highlight. This episode brought to you by Jerry May Travel. We all need time to chase the wind and touch the sky. We need time with family, and we need time to explore the world. When you're ready to book your next cruise or your first one, reach out to Jerry May Travel. Jerry is a passionate travel advisor affiliated with Travel with the Magic, a woman-owned small business specializing in not just cruises, but Disney destinations, Universal Orlando, all-inclusive resorts, and beyond. When you book with Jerry, you always speak to the same person who understands the goals of your family. She understands that your vacation dollars are an investment. Jerry has many years' experience in the travel industry, and you can reach her either by email at Jerry, Jeri, at travelwiththemagic.com, or by phone, website, Instagram, even Facebook, which will be listed in the show notes. Spring break season is here. Now, for many colleges, it varies from late February to late March. Spring Break USA is the end of March, and our local school district here in Utah, well, we are on the tail end of spring break season, which for us is the first week in April. Now, growing up, I don't recall even having spring break, or at least not going anywhere for spring break. But nowadays, spring break seems to be that main season of almost like a summer vacation. It's like the pre-summer vacation. As a daughter of a church pastor and school teacher, our summer vacations were typically just camping. After all, living in Utah, the mountains are literally right in our backyard. So it was close, it was convenient, and it was cheap. However, when my parents celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary, they splurged and went on a cruise for the first time. Let's just say our addiction to watching The Love Boat growing up had quite the effect on them. Now, my mom was really not keen on the idea to start, as she was afraid of being out in the water. Some of you perhaps can relate with that one. But one cruise, and they absolutely loved it. So much that they decided to take each of us kids on 2 cruises growing up through our middle school and high school years. This was back before family cabins were on cruises, so only 4 people could actually fit in a cabin. Our family having 5 people, they took me and my sister on a cruise, then my sister and my brother on a cruise, and then me and my brother on a cruise. So we all became hooked. We loved it. Now, fast forward after getting my associate's degree in public relations, I had a change of heart, per se, as to what I was going to pursue for my bachelor's. So I took a little break and went to travel and tourism school so that I could venture into my own business of travel planning. At least that was the plan. Of course, to graduate, you had to go on a cruise. Now I have to laugh because I had to. You don't have to twist my arm to go on a cruise. Well, just as I graduated, 9/11 took place, and the future of the travel agencies was forever changed. And at that point in time, it no longer made feasible sense for me to pursue that route. But my love of cruising did not diminish. I saved up enough during college to go on a couple of cruises with my parents and their friends during that time. And then when I got married, our honeymoon was on a cruise. And then from there, as our whole herd of our big family was getting older and all of us kids were having babies ourselves, we started investing in doing a little road trip for spring break. Actually, it was my brother who would rent us a house as our Christmas present, and then we'd all stay under one roof. And typically that house had a pool, so we just spend our whole time just hanging out there at the pool. But then we even started doing summer vacations together too. And what seemed to have something for everyone was cruising. Now, a little caveat here is I fully believe in investing in your family, in relationships, in memories made, whether it be through spring break getaways and or summer vacations. Life goes by too fast, and we aren't guaranteed tomorrow. Not only that we'll be here for tomorrow, but we're not guaranteed our health, our time with our loved ones, or even time itself. Family vacations are just great opportunities to break away from our daily routines and the norm. They help us experience new cultures and food and have a new appreciation for what we do have or where we live, as well as have a new appreciation for each other. Research even shows that getting away for vacations, whether it be by yourself, if you're single, or with your family or even your friends, is good for our health also, both mentally, physically, well, even emotionally and spiritually, and of course, relationally. Now, as I mentioned that our family was starting to plan that first cruise together for a summer vacation we were going on, I had just happened to have an opportunity to join a travel agency. So as a hobby, I became a cruise specialist where I just focused on selling cruises in, my free time, let's call it. I kind of have to laugh there because I had just gotten married. I worked full time and I volunteered full time at our church, the youth director and drama director. But you know what you love to do? You'll just find time to do it. And I loved planning and selling and talking and everything that you can imagine. I loved all of that with cruises. I went through most of the major cruise lines educational programs, and I graduated with things such as the Bachelor's of Fun Carnival Phenologist from Carnival and Disney Specialist Graduate from Disney School of Knowledge. That was a fun one. They had some fun things that they sent out, little pins and Mickey ears and a graduation cap type thing. It was fun. A Gold Shield and Freestyle Certified was through Norwegian Cruise Line. Commodore was Princess Cruise Line, and then University of Wow Expert Plus from Royal Caribbean Cruise Line. I really enjoyed my time learning and growing in all of these cruises. But through this time, I was able to book hundreds and hundreds of cruises for couples, families, family reunions, senior groups, and of course, our own family vacations too. I think the largest group I booked at once, so at one time, was about 100 people. And that was so much fun, just helping them prepare for their trip and even sending them off at the airport. I even received a free cruise for me and my kiddos once for how many cabins I had booked on a certain cruise line that year. So that was actually an opportunity. I got to experience a new cruise line altogether myself. I loved that. My family and I joke that in another life, I would have loved to have been a cruise director. Again, I love cruising. Now, I stopped selling cruises as this hobby of mine once the pandemic hit in 2020. Believe it or not, there is a lot that goes into selling cruises, from costs of your CLIA membership and IATA dues, and then whatever your association or your agency might charge you to be affiliated with their brand and be covered by their insurance and such. But I still have a thirst for cruising. And if you've been cruising and loved your experience, you'll probably relate, which is that thirst to go on your next one. In fact, I'll put it out there. One of my bucket lists is to be able to be a guest speaker on a cruise. So we'll kind of see what happens with that in the future. Well, I may have stopped selling cruises, but I still have many reach out asking me about cruising, what cruise ships to take, where to go, tips and tricks, and all that fun stuff. So I thought I'd help unpack, so to speak, all the ins and outs and tips and tricks of cruising that may help you be able to sail off on your summer vacation, or again, maybe even a spring break, with ease and just have the best experience when trying cruising out for yourself. Now, keep in mind, these are my personal opinions from my personal experiences. So make sure when investing in any trip, especially a cruise, but any vacation that you go on, do your research, but hopefully this will help you along the way. Now, there are so many advantages or benefits of cruising, in addition to what there is for everyone. I love how you unpack once and visit multiple ports. You're able to enjoy the ship while it's en route places versus having to fly place to place and then dealing with layovers and sitting in an airplane or airport seat. The personal service that you receive. I was on one cruise once where the gentleman who was waiting our table came up, and the family we were with, it was with my parents and then their best friends and then their best friends' parents. And so our waiter had come up and he said, "I'm not a car, I'm not a train, I'm a bus." Because his name was a bus. And the gentleman that we happened to be traveling with, it was so quick-witted. I was so impressed that he responded, "I'm not a circle, I'm not a square, I'm an oval," because his name was Oval. And they just had such a personal connection right then and there. But in addition to having the same wait staff, if you're having a set dining experience, they can really get to learn you. And Oval and I loved shrimp. And shrimp was only served, actually, like a shrimp cocktail, that is. It was only served like the first night, maybe even the first night or two, but we loved shrimp. And so a bus had learned, our waiter had learned how much Oval and I loved shrimp. And so every night we would show up to dinner and he would have already preset for us a shrimp cocktail. So just going on a cruise, getting to have that personal service and then really learn about you and care about your interests and your likes and all of that stuff. Even when I was younger, I didn't like to have breakfast. And so they, back in the day before they even had donuts on cruises, they actually would make me special donuts. So again, just that personal service and attention that you can get on a cruise is amazing. Also, if you have health needs, they have medical on board, and that just can bring some peace of mind knowing that you do have a medical facility, even when you're traveling out of the country, that you can go to and rely on, and that can be very helpful to you. You also know the cost before you even go on your trip. I mean, other than just spending money, you can get pretty close to the penny of the cost of your whole trip, as it's included with so much, and even things that you might want to add to it just so you know the total cost of your trip going into it. It just can help for that pre-planning. And we'll kind of go into that in a little bit also, but the list goes on and on, but there's so many benefits and advantages to a vacation of cruising. Now, first things first, do we book through the cruise line, so online or by phone? Do you book yourself? So maybe that's by using a third party online or through a warehouse purchase, or do you use a travel agent? This is a question I get asked all of the time because there's a lot of misconceptions that there's hidden fees and charges. And to that point, there could be. And that's where questions are going to come into playing a key role too. But let's start with the cruise lines. The cruise lines will most likely have the most inventory, so access to the in-the-moment availability. Now, I have booked through them once where I couldn't find a room online, but when I called directly, they found a room that wasn't available on the internet yet. It had just been released. So if you book through them, you'll want to check back on pricing to see if sometimes the cruise lines, the cost of it will go down, and they'll allow you to call in and notify them if the price has decreased since booking your trip, and you can get that adjusted. But they're not going to do that adjustment for you automatically. You're going to have to do some legwork here. But again, they could have more inventory, and a con, I guess you could say, is just that you're going to have to check back on some of those pricing if you want the best pricing. Now, booking yourself, so that third party or the warehouse, they tend to have great prices. And this is often what hooks people in and gets people going to the third party or to the warehouses is their pricing. That's often the most appealing. But they do tend to have limited inventory. Once again, I experienced this when booking a trip before when I wanted a certain size room. And although in this case it was a hotel, I wasn't dealing with a cruise on this one, but the hotel still had ample rooms available of that size. However, the third party or the warehouse that I was working with, they only were allowed to sell so many of those rooms. And so when they reached their limit, that's it. So even though there was availability at the hotel, I couldn't get that room because I was going through a warehouse or a third party. So again, pros and cons to each of these. Again, though, saving a lot of money or could potentially save you a lot of money. And then, of course, being a cruise specialist for 10 years myself, I may be partial to having a travel agent. However, it does depend on the agent or the agency. Now, travel agents are paid commission by the cruise lines and hotels and car rental agencies and some tour groups too. But when 9/11 hit years ago, the airlines no longer paid commission for airfare. So that was one of the major changes that took place. So although I never charged to book people's air myself, some travel agents or agencies may add on a charge. Typically, this would be around $25. So that could be a question to ask your agent. If they add any of their own fees, ask them what that is, what it pertains to. Maybe it's just air and you don't care about that, or maybe you book your own air and go through them for the cruise and everything else. So again, ask those questions. A benefit of using a travel agent, though, is the personal attention that you could receive. So for example, I used to keep watch for my clients' trips. If the pricing decreased, I would watch that and get that deal for them. They didn't even have to keep watch or do anything. They didn't even know anything other than they were getting money back or saving money. I would also do a nice little gift in each client's cabin. So I might decorate a room for a family going on their first cruise, or put in cute little mugs for each family member who is going on a special cruise or maybe their first cruise. or maybe a photo frame for a couple celebrating their anniversary. So you may find an agent who loves to do just those little extras for you, and that can be a nice touch. If you're a large group, you may benefit from a travel agent or agency too, such as a group of senior citizens I booked. I actually took time to go out to the senior citizen area, to that home, and help them with their online check-in process, because everyone has to go through that, but it can sometimes just be a little weighty of whether it be confusion or just a lot to do at once, that I went out and just helped them book all of that or fill out their online process and then book their excursions and add any additions that they wanted to put onto their cruise. I even met them at the airport to help them with their luggage and get everyone off okay. So there are many pros to having the right travel agent. Just, again, simply do your research, ask questions, and once you find an agent that works well for you, keep them. Use them for all of your trips, because they'll have all your travel info to where on future trips, whether it be cruises or not, they'll already have your info like sky miles and seat preferences and cabin preferences, and they can just take care of so much of the legwork and the time for you. Now, where do you want to go? This may also coincide with when do you want to go, as when may be influenced by your availability, or wanting to avoid rough seas, or needing to go when most affordable, or wanting to avoid peak times of all the crowds. So things like Caribbean. Maybe the Caribbean appeals to you. However, you need to know that hurricane season is from June to November. So actually the winter months are more ideal here. Hawaii, prices are pretty stable year round, but it rains a lot November through March. So perhaps April through October might be ideal in that case. Alaska, they have a very short season, about 6 months, actually about 5 months. So you have options of going basically April through September. You might even be able to get April through October. Mediterranean, there are some high winds in the Aegean Sea, May through August. And during the summer, it is just packed with tourists, not necessarily from cruising, but just tourists galore. So October through February tends to be the better option for that destination. There are so many destinations, though, that you can look into: Canada and New England, Mexico Riviera, Greek Isles. Now, not all cruise lines have ships in all those areas. Some focus in specific locations. You can also play around with length of your cruise. Now, most cruises are an average of 7 days, but there are some that if you're looking at going to Hawaii, for instance, you could fly into Hawaii and do a 7-night cruise, or you could leave out of California and have a couple of extra at-sea days. So your cruise may be 9 to 11 days in length. Then, of course, there's repositioning cruise opportunities where a cruise may be in the Caribbean during the winter months, and then they're going to be repositioning during the summer for the summer to the Pacific coast. So you could take a one-time offer cruise that only takes place one time that year of traveling from Florida to California. And maybe they do a stop in Galveston, Texas, or maybe it's just all at sea days. Again, repositioning cruises can vary, as the point is to make money of selling the cabins, while they're also getting it from point A to point B to start their new itinerary for that next season. Now, a tip here, so exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. If you'll go to frommers.com, that's FROMMERS.com, and I'll do a link to that in the show notes. That is a great resource for a breakdown of destination, best price, best weather, and just the overall recommendations for various destinations. That could really help out. So check them out for where to go, when to go, all of those key factors. Now from there, you'll choose your cruise line. Now, why not vice versa? Well, depending on where you're going may indicate the best cruise line or the ship for where your itinerary is going. What I mean by this is if you're going to Alaska, Royal Caribbean is actually the cruise line that tends to stay in ports longer. So this gives you more time to explore the ports. Great benefit, right? Whereas if you're going to Hawaii, Norwegian is one that actually goes to all the islands. Okay. So I must disclose here that although I've been very blessed to sail away on 12 cruises, I'm so thankful. I love cruising. I have not traveled on smaller cruise lines. So we're not going to be diving into the smaller cruise ships more. We're going to focus on the larger ones. Although I will say with the smaller cruise lines, keep in mind you may be able to travel to areas the larger ships just can't get to. Physically, they cannot maneuver. You may also have things included such as shore excursions whenever you're booking your cruise. Again, that's on the smaller ships. And of course, you may have a more personalized experience too, as of course, a smaller ship is going to have a lot fewer people on it. Their ships, however, aren't going to have nearly the amount of things to do as the larger ships. So kind of keep that in mind too. Now, there are so many large vessels out there. Some of the key ones I'm going to focus on, the most popular seems to be, and definitely ones that have the most ships, celebrity cruises. There's 15 cruises that they have in their fleet right now, and they're actually adding one more on their way. I've been on one celebrity cruise, and it was wonderful. They're a part of the Royal Caribbean brand. Royal Caribbean, of course, is the next one. They have 27 ships, and they have another one on the way. I've been on that one the most. I've actually been on Royal Caribbean 5 times, and they actually are currently... They have the largest ship. They had the largest ship of the Symphony of the Seas, I believe it was called. And now they just came out in 2022 with a new ship, the Wonder of the Seas. And that actually beat out their last one. So they truly have the largest ship in the world. Another one is Carnival Cruise Lines. That one has 24 ships with 2 on the way. And I've been on that one once for a cruise program that I referred to earlier that I graduated from. That was that course that I had to go on and do for that graduation. Disney Cruise Line, they have 5 ships, so they have very few, but again, theirs are just very special. I've been on that one 3 times, once for my honeymoon, so no kids with us, once with my whole family, but we didn't have our kids yet, and then once with our whole family once we had our 2 children. So Disney Cruise Line is a really good multi-generational cruise line that truly has something, whether you have children with you, whether it be of your own or not, or not even have children traveling in your party. It's a lot of fun and has something for everyone. Princess Cruises, this one has 15 in their fleet with 1 on the way. This is the one that treated me to that cabin for me and my kids after I had sold so many on their cruise. And I was so grateful for getting to experience Princess Cruises. Loved it. Norwegian Cruise Line, they have 19 ships, so quite a bit. This is the one that we went on this was my most recent one actually, that we went on with my parents for their 50th wedding anniversary, and that went around all the islands there in Hawaii. I have not been on Holland America. They have 11 ships. I don't see that they have any plan to come out anytime soon. And then also MSC, which is Mediterranean Shipping Company. They're actually the 3rd largest cruise line in the world. I've never been on that one either, but they have mascots on some of their cruises too. I think it's like a Lego mascot and such. So those are 2 I have not ventured out on yet, so I can't share much about those. But again, definitely make the list for some of those larger ships and a lot of ships in their fleet. Now, a suggestion here is check the ship. When was it built? Has it been renovated or remodeled? What activities does it have on board? And will those meet your and your traveling companion's needs? I think that also depends on just that. So who is going? One family vacation with our whole herd, as I refer to them, we did Royal Caribbean because they're DreamWorks characters. And all of the kids, the nephews and my children just loved the DreamWorks characters. That was fun. Another time on a cruise with my mom, we enjoyed a quiet and luxurious cruise with Princess. So again, it's just a different feel in what they're able to offer, but then also the experience itself. And then when I was on my graduation cruise from the travel program, the other graduates who are in their 20s, they liked that party feel of Carnival. So again, there's so many opportunities out there for you. Now, it is completely possible to pick a cruise based on your preferences. If you don't want kids butting in line at the buffet, you can choose a cruise that doesn't gear towards children, or a smaller vessels even have, many of them will have no children policies or even an age limit, a minimum age limit. If you don't want to walk around the ship to get everywhere, a smaller ship may be more up your alley there too, than especially the newer ships. They're basically walking around a floating city out there. And then some cruises allow smoking, others only in open areas, and others don't allow smoking at all. So again, who is going, and then what ship has the feel, the activities, the dining, just those touches that you're going for. Now, as I mentioned, our family, so our whole herd, started going on cruises all together for our summer vacations because There truly was something for everyone. Now, I'm not just talking about pools and lounge rooms. I mean, we're talking the spa. If you're needing some extra pampering, yes, the spa is extra, but it can totally be worth it. I did a sleep machine on one cruise, and holy Hannah, 15 minutes in that thing felt like you had just slept 15 hours. It was amazing. Once again, I recommend pre-booking these spa services though, if you know you're going to want something specific, such as if you're going to want to get all dolled up with your hair and makeup for one of the dress-up nights. Those book up fast, so don't wait. However, when you first get on the ship, spas will typically have an open house time frame. And this is a great time and the only time that you'll be able to go tour the whole spa and see what all they have to offer. They do tend to offer discounts at that open house too. So if you're wanting to book there and save a little bit of cash, that can be helpful. That's how I learned about and booked that sleep machine, is through a tour once. And again, that was a really cool experience. And I've never come across something like that since. After that, first day spa services for the whole week, though, tend to be really booked, especially sea days. And so you're going to want to make sure that you do get something secured that first day. Otherwise, you're pretty much going to be out. However, someone might cancel, which again, we actually got lucky on a cruise and that happened where someone had canceled. And so we were able to get in for massages. So do call or check with the spa once you're on your cruise if you decide after the fact that you want to have a service done. You never know if, something opens up or not. There's also plenty of entertainment. I was on a game show once and won enough onboard credit to buy my former husband a watch he had been eyeing in the store on board. And some ships have musicals and plays. That's where I saw Cats. Others have like magic shows for kids and karaoke. That's a favorite of mine and my kids. Me and my kids have performed many a song during karaoke. We even have some video to prove that one. And then they have movie theaters, both theaters, as well as like showing a movie on the big screen up on the deck near the pool at night. That's a lot of fun too. So from amateur guest entertainment to professional high-end entertainment, it's all on there. And yes, these are typically included. There's also different activities. Now, depending on the ship, you might have dance classes and shuffleboard, your typical type of cruise activities. Now, don't judge, but both of those are among my go-tos on cruises. I actually really enjoy those. But newer ships are adding things like zip lining, ice skating rinks, surfing, even bumper cars and escape rooms. Then there are, of course, game rooms like your board game rooms and even now Xbox rooms. And then classes are being offered, especially Princess. They have like a scholarship at sea program. And so there can be a lot of classes offered where you learn how to do things. On our Hawaii cruise, my daughter and I took hula dancing lessons. And we even performed in front of an audience and got our certificate of graduation after performing. It was really cool. Now, although most activities are free, there are some things that may cost, like cooking classes or ship tours. So just be aware of some of those might have a fee associated with those, but most activity-wise, things are available on the cruises are complimentary and a part of your cruise fare. Now, one of the major benefits to parents and draws for kids and teens alike are the programs for babies, kids, and teens. Some ships may charge for the baby group. I think on one cruise we went on, you got like 2 hours free for ages 2 and under each day. And then anything over that was like $10 per hour. Or perhaps it may be you get during the day for free at certain times. And then after that certain time, maybe a late night, maybe it ends at 10. And if you're wanting to stay out and go karaokeing or, go dancing or something, do late night, then maybe that kicks in to where it's a charge per hour after that time frame. So that's something you can check into. But otherwise, these programs are typically included with your cruise fare. Now, as a mom who has felt convicted to have a job that allows me to be mom and raise my kids to where they have never seen a day of childcare or coming home to an empty house, I think I used a babysitter maybe once, maybe 2 times. Yeah, but I had no guilt putting my kiddos in these programs when on cruises. They love them. If you're on a Disney cruise, they actually have the characters stop by and have special times with the kids. One cruise, my daughter dressed up for a pirate princess night where they had Hook and Peter Pan and Tinkerbell all made their appearances there with the kids and helped the kids look for gold and do some fun activities. Another cruise, my son was in a show with his kids program where parents were invited to come watch them put put on the show. And I got to tell you, my son was the cutest little tiger ever. He had a decorated face and all. It was adorable. So kids love these fun programs for them. And it's not just babysitting. It really is an adventure. And the older they get, they can actually check themselves in and out. So if they go and they don't want to stay, like my daughter went before and she's like, nothing's really going on, or my friend's not here, so I'm going to go ahead and take off. So if parents give permission for their older kids, or especially those teenagers, to check themselves in and out, then they can totally do that too. I do recommend taking walkie-talkies on your cruise though, so that you can stay in touch with your kids if you plan on letting them have that in and out privileges. We found it very helpful on our cruises for all the cousins to connect together, and then for us to just give them that free reign, yet be able to check in every so often too. Again, so many different things for everyone to do on a cruise. So check the ship's deck plan and help kind of choose which ship you want, choose your destination course, but it may have a major impact on what you choose based on what is on your ship. It might come down to just, for me, on one trip specifically, it came down to 2 ships that I really liked, but all the onboard stuff for my kids to do on one ship specifically was a total deal maker. So again, check out your ships. What room do you book and where do you book it? Now on cruise ships, they refer to your room as a cabin. So that's what I'm meaning every time I say cabin is actually your room. When I was younger, once we'd get on the cruise and I love to go look at all the larger cabins. So like the suites and all that, I could poke my head in. But again, back when I was younger, they would actually have all the ship's doors open. So all the cabin doors were open, waiting for, guests to arrive and go in them. So you could see everything and it was really cool. You just tried not to get, caught by the cabin steward. But now, of course, with safety, they've closed those and you can't see those. But there are multiple different types of rooms, but mainly 4 categories. And what I mean by that is inside. Let's start there. So an inside cabin is going to be, again, the interior. All the walls are going to be walls, no windows, things like that. However, nowadays, some are having virtual windows, or they, like on Royal, they may overlook an inside area of the ship, like their promenade area. So an inside, although it once was just 4 walls, keep in mind that some ships now, especially the newer ships, might have a virtual window or even, like I said, like an internal balcony that looks over a promenade. But for the most part, they are going to just, like I said, be 4 walls. Now, 7 of my cruises have been in this category, so most of them. And in addition to it saving a lot of money, as interior rooms are typically the least expensive, most aren't in your room anyhow, most of the time. So you don't have to worry necessarily about being able to see out. In fact, I'm claustrophobic and this never fazed me at all being an inside room. In fact, it gets so nice and dark at night that I swear this is the best sleep we'll ever have is in an inside room. Another category is going to be your ocean view. I was able to do an ocean view room on the Princess Cruise, and my kids loved sitting up in the window. This entertained them, and I felt totally safe with my little ones just sitting up there in the window. So if you're not sure if you're going to enjoy the whole cruising experience because you don't want to be confined to your room or something, perhaps upgrading to that ocean view will at least give you a window to look out. That's what my parents did on their first cruise, and that helped them a little bit too. Another category is your balcony. Now, I'll admit, since COVID, this is definitely appealing that you'd still have your space, your outdoor space, and be able to see out and even go out if you're quarantined to your room. A balcony is a nice place to be. We've been very blessed on having a few of these. And whether it be having your breakfast out there or concluding your night with sitting out and just listening to the waves, or in my sister's case, she likes to leave the balcony door open during the night so she can hear the ocean throughout the evening, or throughout her sleep rather. However, I don't like that because just a little tip here, your air conditioning doesn't come on unless those balcony doors are closed. I don't know about you, but I can turn on the sound of waves if I need to. I want my air conditioning, but my sister is vice versa. She would rather have the hot and humid room, but be able to listen to the ocean. So some options there that can definitely have benefits with the balcony. And then the 4th category is going to be your suites. Now, this is where it ranges, and it really ranges per ship that you're on in cruise line itself. There's going to be family suites where they might be able to sleep, 5, 6, 7, 8 people in a suite. You're going to have suites with lofts in them. There's some really cool ones they make now where there's like a slide that connects from the upper deck to the lower portion of the loft area to the bottom area of your room. So pretty impressive new suites. You have butler service on many of them, or even a hospitality lounge. They can come with larger decks, or even have a hot tub on your deck, or maybe have spa access. My brother and my dad went on a cruise once where they were in the presidential suite, and they had their own, like, not private entry exit area, but they had a private access to getting on and off the ship. And so they didn't even have to deal with the crowd of everyone else getting on and off. So they really thought that was a cool perk. But of course, these can be crazy costly. But hey, perhaps in my lifetime, I'll get a chance to see more of an inside room like that. Not an inside room, but more of a suite room like that. So we'll see. Until then, I live vicariously through my dad and my brother. Now, a huge tip here, again, listen up, exclamation, 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 is to make sure to bookmark cruisedeckplans.com. That's cruisedeckplans.com. This is going to be your best friend for insights into different rooms. Here you can find your cruise line, then choose your ship, and then you can go and look at various cabins, either by video or by pictures of that room, or at least those similar. So if you have your idea that you're going to be on, let's say, deck 9, room 92106, then you could go on and see that maybe they don't have a video or a picture posted of that room, but maybe there's one posted of 4 rooms down that's going to be similar view. So you can just kind of get a feel for what room you're getting ready to book. Now, keep in mind that same room might connect. So if you need or just want connecting rooms, you can also look specifically for those cabins too that are able to connect for you. We've done this before where we've connected with my parents, and that was just kind of fun, especially as the kids were younger. They could watch the kids in, like, my son, if he was taking a nap. My mom, if she was going to be in her cabin, we could have the room open, the doors open. My son could take a nap. She could hang out and read her magazine in her room. But again, with connecting, it made it where someone was still there and we were able to be in 2 places at once in a sense. Now, placement of your cabin may be important to you, especially if this is your first cruise, or if you're prone to seasickness or afraid of getting seasick. So cabins located are basically 3 different spots. There's forward, mid, or aft. And then you have how many decks there are. So anymore, the larger ships have about 12 decks. Now, I always suggest, as far as forward, mid, or aft, I always suggest midship. Forward, obviously, is the front of the ship. Mid is obviously the middle. And then aft, 3 letters, AFT. Think of end, END. It's the back of the ship. But I always suggest the midship placement with the mid-level decks also. So like if there's 12 decks, I aim for deck 6 through 8. Because if you're forward or if you're aft, depending on the water, you may feel like you're on a seesaw. And that might just be your tipping point, right? Or if you're too high a deck, like deck 10, 11, and 12, you may feel like you're swaying side to side. So be very careful in what deck you choose. Also, going too low, the lower decks like 1 and 2 are mainly going to be for the staff. But even deck 3, that's mainly where you come on. You typically enter on a ship on deck 3, 4, or 5. But if you're on a lower deck like that, it may be too noisy, especially if it's close to a casino or a bar, or you might even feel the vibrations from the motors. So again, midship, both in forward, mid, or aft location, but then also mid-level as far as how many decks there are. You'll just feel a little more nestled in there. Now, if you do get sick, or again, if you're just concerned about it, you can wear the pressure point bracelets on your wrist. You can get those like Walmart, Target, any of those places. You can even buy them at airports or even there when you get on the ship. I always pack these just in case. And then there's medications you can check with your doctor about taking, even ear patches that can be prescribed to go behind your ears. And things like drinking ginger ale may also help you. I make it a thing to drink a ginger ale every night at dinner just in case, because as evening is is coming upon us, that's mainly when you're on the ship, right? Because during the day, you're typically at port or, roaming about the ship. So in the evening is when I like to drink that ginger ale, because that's when the ship starts selling out and you tend to feel it more. Now, I've only gotten sick on one. It was actually my first or my second cruise, and it was so nonchalant. I remember as a child, we're just taking a tour of this cruise, and I see a steward's like a little cart, to fix up the room. And I just nonchalantly walk by, grab a towel, throw up, and then put it in the dirty clothes. And then I was fine. Another time it was probably maybe 5 cruises ago. So I had been on quite a few, and I got really, really sick as far as just like feeling that nauseous feeling. And I spent the entire day up on the top deck and just feeling the breeze on my face. And then I was fine. But other than that, I've done pretty good. I've been very fortunate and very thankful for that. But again, that ginger ale is my go-to. I think that is something that just helps me every night. Now, if seasickness isn't a concern, other things you may consider when choosing your cabin may be how close you are to things. Like my dad likes the convenience of being near the restaurant and near the shows. I tend to look for proximity to the elevators and stairs. Some may want to be near the spa or near the kids or teens activity areas. Now, once you decide location of your cabin, as far as location and level, you'll want to choose a side. Yes, which side of the ship you're on may impact your cruise, primarily for those with ocean views, balconies, and suites. If you have starboard, you're on the right side. If you have port, think of 4 letters, P-O-R-T, that is left, L-E-F-T, 4 letters, okay? So port is left, starboard is right. Now, this makes an impact in some places, not all. If traveling to Alaska, for instance, you're going to want to be on the starboard side if you're traveling round trip northbound. However, if you're traveling if you're traveling round trip southbound, you're going to want to be on the port side. If you're traveling Hawaii, then the port side tends to offer a great view of the Nepali coast. However, the starboard side allows for the lava viewing between Hilo and Kona. So again, do your research. What are you going to be able to see? What advantages might one side have over another? Now, this might be a good stopping point for today, as it leaves you plenty to think about and research. How to book. Directly with the cruise line, by yourself using a third party or warehouse, use an agent or agency. Where to go, so what cruise line, and from there, what cruise ship. Where to actually book your cabin as to location on the ship. We'll drop a bonus episode later, probably next Tuesday. Let's shoot for 1 week from today. That'll give you plenty of time to research. And there we'll finish up the rest of that we had planned for today. And that's going to be included, what's included on a cruise ship. That's going to include suggestions of what you may want to add to your costs prematurely, before you get on there, you're going to want to add. Discuss dining times and options and excursions. And then, of course, I have plenty of tips and tricks that I can share with you also. So we'll have to reconnect in 1 week from now. Go ahead and do your research. And I would love to hear about some of your favorite cruise lines or ships that you've been on, perhaps, or even bucket lists of places where you want to go. I know for me, the Mediterranean and Paris and Rome and the Greek Isles, those are all a few that are on my list for sure of places that I want to explore. And hopefully one day I'm able to do that through cruising itself. So cruising those open seas, let's say. So until then, though, go ahead and do that research. We'll connect next Tuesday, and hopefully one of these days you'll be able to get on and enjoy some happy sailing. Thank you for joining me on this journey of life. I hope that today's highlight has been encouraging, inspiring, and equipping so you can go out and live your life full of purpose. I'd be honored if you'd take a moment to leave a review, or better yet, subscribe. We can also stay in touch by joining my email list at hollycurby.com. That's HOLLYCURBY.com. Until next time, make it a great day for a great day.